in 1080p now. All right, put myself in this top corner, and we straight. All right, y'all. Anyways, because I know y'all wasn't really paying attention because I was talking over it, trying to fix the video the whole time. We watching cop tries to escape from House of Horrors.
Tim, watch his back.
Come on out, man. Go ahead, I got you, Will. I got you. Pull the chain, Will. Pull the chain.
This officer was running for his life in a desperate attempt to escape
You
from
can
a
look at him.
real-life
He's trying
house
to
of
dip.
horrors. Inside, the nightmare is far from over.
Dang, he rolling up. Ooh, oh my.
Deadly standoff.
Hey, man, come
What are
on
they busting
out here.
shots? This shit look like a cinematic movie.
You got a hostage. Yeah. What do you got a hostage for? What's going on?
As the officers navigated the unknown, they had no idea of the true terror that awaited them. One wrong move could leave them scarred for life, or worse, dead.
In fact, they genuinely gotta be careful.
Yeah, I'm here.
Listen, if you've been in a car accident, don't call an attorney. Use this AI app instead. That's what I did, and that's how I got this $140,000.
Shut up.
It all began on the morning of Thursday, April 4th, 2019, when the Henry County Police Department received a frantic 911 call from Anetria White.
Henry County 911 location. Can you please call?
Dang.
Sandy. He's in the garage. Is he breathing, please? He's in the garage? I can see him, ma'am. His blood all over the driveway.
Anetria was growing increasingly worried. Her sister, 39-year-old Sandra White, 16-year-old nephew Arkevion White, and Sandra's live-in boyfriend, 47-year-old Anthony Bailey Jr., hadn't responded to texts or calls for hours. Concerned, she decided to check on them at Sandra's home in Stockbridge, Georgia, only to be met with a horrifying sight. Blood was seeping from the garage. As she peered through the glass window, she saw Sandra lying motionless, covered in blood. Panicked, Anetria immediately called 911. Officers were dispatched to the scene while the dispatcher stayed on the line with her. But just when it seemed things couldn't get any worse, Anetria made another shocking revelation.
You're having a baby shower on Saturday? So she's pregnant?
Oh, imagine your sister being pregnant, and then next thing you know, she's gone. Like,
Officer
that's
Shannon
crazy.
Foster was the first to arrive at the scene, but he had no idea what he was walking into.
Who shot him,
It
though?
was unclear
Like,
whether this was a routine medical emergency or something far more sinister. After briefly consoling Anetria, Officer Foster moved forward to assess the situation. As he scanned the area, he noticed blood pooled between two cars parked in the driveway. He peered inside the vehicles, but saw nothing unusual. Then, with a growing sense of unease, he walked up to the garage and looked inside.
In the first set of windows, I don't see anything, so I go down.
I wouldn't be able
And that's a woman's
to
body.
do it. I don't think he'd be able to do it, man.
No movement, no anything. She's hurt. She needs medical attention.
Although Anetria was terrified, convinced that Sandra was already gone, Officer Foster wasn't so sure. At that moment, he speculated that Sandra might have gone into labor in the car and somehow
No, I
managed
don't
to
think
drag
that's what
herself
happened.
to the garage. But one thing was clear. If she was still alive, time was running out. The garage door wouldn't open, so Officer Foster quickly moved toward the front door, hoping to gain entry. Just then, his colleague, Officer Taylor Webb, arrived at the scene.
Hey, you got some gloves?
Yeah,
I got the full station. She's on that side.
he's in the garage.
Yeah. Laying down right there.
Step to your left. We can't go in the garage. We can go in the front door. That's locked.
I just knocked. Here we got police!
Dang. They
Can
banging
you
on that
see
door.
her?
Yeah.
Is she responding?
No.
That's
Look, you can
scary,
see
bro.
right here. Blood in the
I
driveway.
was seeing
Females
blood and
visible
then getting
inside.
no response.
Unresponsive. We're about to 4th century. You ready, Foster? Let's do it.
Realizing the urgency of the situation, the officers made a quick decision. They had to force their way in. With Officer Webb leading the way and Officer Foster right behind him,
Be all right,
they
man.
broke
Don't get.
down the door.
Oh,
But the moment they stepped in, they walked straight into an ambush.
dang. I think I already seen this. Not gonna lie.
No, don't go around. He's on the
As gunfire erupted, Officer Foster instinctively backed away toward the window, narrowly avoiding a bullet.
Oh my
In that
goodness.
split second, he caught a glimpse of the shooter, their eyes locked just before the directly at him.
That boy went
By sheer
playing.
luck, Foster was his fear wasn't for himself. It was for Officer Webb.
Yeah, I
Webb
ain't
had
gonna lie,
entered
that
the house
officer kinda
first,
fat.
but he hadn't come back out. From the outside, there was no sign of him, no movement, no sound. Foster had no idea if his partner was injured, or worse. The situation spiraled out of control in mere seconds, and no one outside knew what was truly unfolding inside. Just then, a third officer, Keegan Merritt, arrived on the scene. As he stepped out of his car, the sharp cracks of gunfire rang out. Bracing for the unknown, Merritt stayed on high alert as he cautiously approached the house.
I draw my weapon and I'm kind of evaluating what is this. Oh, watch out.
Anetria, still at the scene, suddenly found herself caught in the crossfire. Officers yelled for her to
I
get to
think you'll have
safety,
to stay on
and she
high alert, I
sprinted
ain't gonna
across
lie.
the street, taking
Seeing
cover
these bullets
behind a
ring out like
neighbor's
this,
truck.
you'd have to.
Seeing her sister in such a horrific state had already shaken her, but now she was even more terrified. What had happened to Arkevion and Anthony?
Shocked.
For the officers, the situation was just as chaotic. They had managed to dodge the bullets, but they were completely in the dark about what was really happening. At first, they believed it was a burglary gone wrong, but now it had turned into a full-blown, potentially deadly standoff. As the gunfire raged on, 3 more officers, Joseph Maddox, Mark Rommelman, and Justin Boggs, arrived on their motorcycles. But within moments, they too would be forced to dive for cover, caught up in the escalating violence.
Hey! He's inside the house right there on the stairs. On the stairs? Stairs right there.
The officers quickly took cover in different positions, desperately trying to make contact with Officer Webb. It was critical. They couldn't just storm the house blindly. Rushing in without a plan wouldn't just put their own lives at risk, but it could also
Damn,
endanger
boy.
Webb even more.
Boy,
After
got some little
multiple
ass
failed
lips and a fat
attempts to
ass
reach
head.
him,
You know
Officer
he
Merritt
like.
made a
I'll show
split-second
you.
decision. He ran to his
What's that one
police
nigga
van
from,
to grab a more powerful
Spider-Man,
weapon,
bro, that big
the
fat ass man, bro,
AR-15
that big fat ass
rifle.
white man who can't
With
reach
its
his butthole.
superior power and precision, it could give them the upper hand in what was turning into a deadly ambush,
What's his name,
where
bro?
every shot could
No,
mean
but
the
they
difference
show-
between life
They
or
showing me
death.
the other one, bro.
Okay,
No,
man,
bro, I'm
y'all.
not talking about Peter Parker Friends, man. I'm talking about yes, bro. This nigga,
Where's
bro,
Webb?
found this ugly ass.
Tell him back up, get some cover. You okay?
With his rifle held close to his
Why
chest,
he look
Officer
to
Merritt
remind me
took
of hold
position
on, why he
behind a
look to
small
remind me
tree,
of me
keeping
of
his
OG right
sights
here.
locked on the house's doorway. Though the tree barely concealed
Look, you remind me of OG right here. I'm just saying, just a little bit, bro. Just a little bit,
who
bro.
had blocked off
Anyway,
every
back to
other
this one.
vantage point, leaving Merritt with this single fragile line of attack. If the gunman made a move, Merritt had to be faster. Then, out of nowhere, the gunman spoke, as if he had been waiting for this exact moment.
Come here, I got a lot of shots.
He probably was waiting for that exact moment. Like,
Hey, man, come on out here.
I ain't coming nowhere.
Where's our officer at?
Anybody got out with you?
Where's our officer at?
He downstairs somewhere.
Where's he at?
I don't know. I got ready to move.
hey man, come on out here.
The
I ain't
officers
coming
were
nowhere.
already fearing the worst, knowing their partner was trapped inside. But when the gunman confirmed that he had directly fired at Officer Webb, a chilling realization set in. Webb might not have survived the attack. Still, there was no time to dwell on that. Their priority was to get him out and take control of the
Nah,
situation.
But we already.
Officer Merritt continued to engage the gunman in
What happened to the
conversation,
cop who was inside,
hoping
though?
to keep him talking long
Oh, he
enough to
didn't.
prevent
Oh, he
another
didn't.
round of
Oh,
gunfire.
he didn't
But
survive.
just as
My
they
bad, I
thought
just
they
read
had a
it.
handle on the standoff, the gunman dropped a detail that sent an even deeper wave of fear through them.
I wouldn't have went in there first, bro. I couldn't, bro.
I ain't coming nowhere. You're not coming here. I got a hostage. I got a hostage.
You got a hostage.
Yeah.
What do you
No,
got
he got a
hostage for? What's
hostage.
going on?
That's the worst thing you want to hear as a cop. I got a hostage.
All the officers knew that Sandra and Webb were in different parts of the garage, so they probably weren't being held hostage, though their lives were still in grave danger. But Arkevian and Anthony were still missing. Even worse, there was no way to tell if the gunman was bluffing or if his threats were real. But soon the mystery of the gunman's identity would unravel, and in a way no one saw coming. Meanwhile, Enetria remained stuck at the neighbor's house, her mind racing with fear for her sister and her family. When she
I'd
saw
be
two
scared too,
officers
bro. I know
approaching,
someone
she
died
braced
in my
herself for
garage.
an update, hoping for good news. But instead, they told her the situation was still just as dangerous. Just as despair began to settle in, her phone buzzed with a text from Anthony. For a split second, she felt relieved. At least someone was responding. But as she read the message, that relief turned into sheer horror.
He texted me and he was like, tell them don't come in, I have Kiwi. They asked me to write a statement. I couldn't even write because I was crying so hard.
The text was
I would
nothing
too,
short
bro.
of a
My family could
bombshell,
die, bro.
shattering
That's
any
trauma right
notion
there.
that this was just a random home invasion. Instead, it became clear that the situation was far more dangerous. Anthony wasn't some outsider. He knew every inch of the house, which meant he had the upper hand.
Man.
And if he was willing to harm his own family, negotiating with him would be nearly impossible.
Nah, facts.
For Enetria, the revelation was even more devastating. There had never been any red flags about Anthony before. No warnings.
Tell now, buddy.
No signs. She couldn't comprehend why he would do something so unthinkable.
Until that moment, to be honest with you, I can't say anything bad about Mr. Bailey at all. It's
Dang.
hard to imagine that he would do something like that.
The officers advised Enetria
He's
to
crazy.
try
Where
reaching
is he,
out to
bro?
Anthony,
It'd be the most
hoping
the
she
ones you
could
think
calm
the
him
most-
down
you saying
in
that'd
any
be
way
the most
possible.
craziest ones.
But
I'm
regardless
telling
of
you,
how
bro.
many times she called or texted, there was no response. Meanwhile, officers relayed the critical information over the radio, fully aware that with every passing minute, the situation was becoming more volatile.
We're getting information. There's current texting going on. Suspect is holding a gun to the hostage's head. And if anybody tries to approach, he's gonna kill them.
As the officers were still trying to figure out their next move, Officer Foster, still cornered at the edge of the garage, suddenly heard movement coming from inside.
What is that? Hey, get back in the garage. In the garage.
Go ahead, get back in that garage.
Who's in the garage? Somebody's in the garage.
At first, the officers
Twin, it
assumed
ain't
it was
Anthony, bro.
Anthony, since they had no idea where he was inside the house. Officer Foster stayed low, trying to take cover without revealing his position, unsure of what Anthony's next move might be. But just a second later, unexpectedly relieving discovery.
Somebody's in the garage. That's Webb. Get him out. Get him out. Bust the window. Bust the window. Stop.
Y'all can't leave him in there. Bust the window.
Webb, who? Webb.
Get him out. Get him out.
Webb, you okay? Tell him watch his back. Come on out, Webb.
Bro, all
The
of these
tension
folks are so
outside was
country, bro. I
overwhelming,
know.
but for Officer Webb, trapped inside, it was a house of horrors.
It went from an average day to absolute chaos in about 2.5 seconds. It's not like
I'm
what
telling you.
Hollywood says. Time doesn't slow down, your brain speeds up. After I kicked in the front door, I took a step forward and looked left, didn't see anything pressing.
Dang.
And as I took the second step, the bad guy came down the stairs and opened fire.
In a split second, Officer Webb realized he had been shot twice,
Oh, he lived.
once in the chest and once in the hip. The force of the bullet sent him crashing to the ground. He knew staying in the doorway was a death sentence, and if he didn't move fast, he wouldn't make it out alive. Summoning every
moved.
ounce of strength, he crawled behind a wall, positioning himself out of sight from the stairwell.
But the hardest part for me was hearing them call for me, asking if I was okay, and not being able to tell them that I was. I knew that not responding was just ripping their guts out.
Nah,
Had I
facts.
returned communications either by shouting or radio, he would know exactly where I was,
Yep,
and he could
and
start
he would start
shooting
shooting
me
at
through
you
the
again.
walls of the house. I didn't have any choice.
But Webb quickly realized he couldn't stay there for long. He had no idea how long it would take for his colleagues to get to him. His own life was hanging by a thread, but more importantly, Sandra might still have a chance, if it wasn't already too late.
Dang, bro.
With no other choice, Webb made a bold move. Keeping
Dude.
low, he crawled across the kitchen floor on his stomach, inching toward the garage. Then, just a few feet ahead, he saw her, Sandra's body, motionless on the cold floor.
I could see the victim lying on the ground behind a car that was parked in the garage. I got a little closer to her, and I could clearly see that she was deceased, and she had been that way for several hours.
Webb's grim discovery shifted
Dang,
everything.
so they found him in the
His only
garage.
goal now was to get out of that house alive. But there was one big problem. His body wasn't cooperating. The pain and shock were taking their toll, slowing him down just when he needed to move the most.
Dang,
I
bro.
could see everything slowly starting to get darker and darker and darker. I was starting to get more tunnel vision. I was starting to lose feeling in my fingertips. My motor functions were going down. Even my cognitive ability, my ability to think clearly.
Dang,
I
bro.
could tell my mind
That boy's
was starting
getting,
to get
yeah,
more
he
muddled. I was
really
having a
almost
hard
died out there
time
on that
forming
field.
coherent thought.
Webb, barely able to think straight, pounded on the garage door with all the strength he had left before collapsing to the ground. Luckily, the noise was enough to alert everyone outside. The officers were relieved to know Webb was still conscious and trying to escape. But the danger wasn't over yet at any moment, so they had to move
In
fast.
fact, they gotta get their home.
Smashing a window seemed like the quickest way to get Webb out, but there was a problem. It was too high and too narrow.
Nah, facts.
Webb had no way of climbing
He
out.
can't climb out,
There's no
twin.
way he's climbing out of those windows. And so I just look at my coworkers, my brothers, and I'm like, hey guys, y'all got me. I put all my might into getting Webb out of that garage. I don't know where it came from. All I knew that somebody had to do something.
Officer Maddox didn't have any wood-cutting tools on hand, and firing his weapon was out of Officer Webb. With no other choice, he
facts.
started kicking the wooden panel with all his strength. Blow after blow, he didn't stop until the wood splintered and finally gave way.
I actually see the wood
Dang.
just splintering in. I mustered up the last of my strength, thought as small as I possibly could, and dove out through the opening in the garage.
That boy leaking.
Come on, get up, get up. What's up? Where? You?
Dang, they really saved this man's
As
life by a
Officer
thread.
Webb
Like,
lay on the ground, the other
That boy's
officers
strong, though. How
carefully
much you think
began
he lifted his
assessing
weight?
his wounds.
Hit the chest and the hip.
In his chest and his head.
That's how much, and his radio too. We'll talk to him, baby. Keep breathing.
The bullet to his chest wasn't fatal. His bulletproof vest had done its job. But the shot to his hip was more concerning. There was no
the
exit
bullet was
wound,
still there.
which meant the bullet could have punctured a vital organ or caused internal bleeding. He wasn't bleeding heavily on the outside, but that didn't mean he was out of danger just yet. Fortunately, paramedics arrived within minutes and quickly began
Thank
treating
God they
Officer
saved that
Webb.
man's life.
Once he was in their care, the rest of the team shifted their focus back to dealing with the gunman.
All right, let me get in here and work, guys. Let me get in here and work. Come on. Hey, Boggs and Joey, as soon as they drop him, come back up here. We're going to need all the 99 guys up here. Got him? Yeah, we're good.
Now that they knew Sandra was gone, rescuing the
He
fragile
was
line between
gone,
life
yep.
and death was now in their hands. Officer Merritt, still crouched behind the tree, decided to try talking to Anthony.
I'm gonna get a screenshot of this. This is what I've been waiting for. See, y'all think I'm not smart. I be waiting for the screenshots to pop up the moment they arise. I'm there. Feel me? Oh, watch this. Peep game. Peep game. Lock in. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh yeah, peep game. Lock in. Peep game. Lock in. No, where's that? All right. Now what I can do is right. How do I do it? How do I do it? I can't customize. Can't customize your fucking stupid. There we go. Now I can do it. Okay. Low key, I kind of want this on though. If I'm doing that, I kind of want the virtual background on. I finna get this motherfucker right now. Hold on. Perfect. That's all we need. Let's go. Back to the video. Hold on. Let me go over here. Yep. Let's send this down. And not all the way. All right, back to the video.
Anthony again. If Anthony could hear him, it meant he was likely close to the door.
Nah,
a critical
facts.
piece of information that could help them plan their next move.
Hey, bud. Hey, man. What's going on? What's the problem?
I got a lot of shots.
What?
Don't tell me think I wear, man. I got a lot of shots.
Well, what's the problem?
After issuing a warning to Officer Merritt, Anthony fell silent. With no clear plan in place, Officers Rommelman and Maddox decided to cut across the front yard and move. It was a risky move. They were completely exposed with no cover, but their goal was to surround the house in case Anthony tried to escape from another exit.
I understand it though.
Nothing could have prepared them for the sudden attack that followed just moments later.
Hey, man. What's the problem? Ah! Your pop.
He getting the drop on him from up top. He ain't playing.
Mary, you good? Mary, I'm here.
Dang, he really got aim
The
though.
bullet struck his right hand, nearly severing his finger, which now dangled as if it might fall off.
Oh,
but Merritt didn't have time to focus
that.
on the pain. His survival instincts kicked in and he started crawling backward, desperately trying to get out of the yard. He knew he was a sitting duck, completely exposed with no visual on Anthony, who had the upper hand from a hidden vantage point. One more shot could have ended Merritt's life, but luck was on his side. Somehow, he managed to reach the other officers waiting at the back of the house.
I didn't see him.
That boy need help. He leaking.
Here. Hey, someone take my rifle. Here.
Yep, get in the field.
Someone take my
Dang,
rifle.
it's crazy. This is passing out equipment. Making everybody get in the field.
There's a
Don't matter.
Left side, there's a stairway. Damn it. A pistol, or maybe an AR. Said he had 30 rounds.
A paramedic quickly led Officer Merritt to the ambulance, where he was given immediate medical attention.
That
But while
boy really
Merritt was being
shit, though.
treated,
Think about it.
the
His
Henry
aim
County
gotta be
police were still
magnificent,
far
bro.
from gaining
He already
control
hit
of the situation at the crime scene.
twice.
With
They
two
didn't
officers
his
down,
hand.
the odds of
Out of all
rescuing
things, his
Arcavian
hand.
seemed
Look, I feel
nearly
like he was aiming
impossible.
for his cranium.
Realizing the gravity of the situation,
It's crazy, like,
authorities
you really do got
escalated
aim.
their response. The entire neighborhood was locked down, and reinforcements poured in. SWAT teams arrived in armored vehicles with support from
County,
all the
well,
nearby counties.
Of course,
The
it's
standoff had now
of course
become
it's
a
in Georgia.
full-scale
That's,
emergency.
that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know, nigga. Soon as I see Clayton County, of course, bro. I'm sitting here looking at it like I'm thinking like this gotta be in Georgia too, bro. I knew it. Niggas in Georgia is crazy, bro. They're always doing crazy things.
They are getting their armored vehicle here now. You have a negotiator and a drone and all.
Back at the scene, Officer Foster remained pinned by the garage. Just above him, there was an open window, which seemed like a perfect vantage point for the shooter. Foster feared Anthony might try to take him out from there, so he stayed frozen in place waiting for backup. 2 long, nerve-wracking hours later,
That boy not
the
even
SWAT
going. He already
teams
seen it.
finally
He already
moved in
know.
and rescued him.
Do you live in Georgia? If you have been in a car accident in Georgia within the last year, even as a passenger, you might...
Your bitch ass on. See how you two keep trying to play me like that?
That was when it first going on. Okay, you good? Not bad, yeah. You back? Yeah.
As day turned to night, authorities continued their attempts to negotiate with Anthony. However, he refused to confirm whether Arkevion was still alive and eventually fell completely silent. With no other options, the SWAT team changed tactics. They deployed tear gas canisters at every window to force Anthony out. However, the retaliation that came from the other side was far more violent.
I couldn't tell you how many times he fired, but he fired multiple rounds, ricocheting off. Couldn't tell where it was coming from. We couldn't see the suspect to get a shot on.
After hours of fruitless negotiations and countless tactical maneuvers, the SWAT team finally decided to make a forced entry into the house. The grueling 16-hour standoff had tested every ounce of their resolve, but what they discovered inside made all their efforts seem heartbreakingly futile. In the garage, they found Sandra's lifeless body, the fatal wound from a close-range gunshot leaving no room for doubt. As they cautiously moved through the house and into an upstairs bedroom, their worst fears came true. There they discovered Arkevion's body. The young boy had also been shot at close range. The grim realization hit the officers hard. While they had held on to hope that Arkevion was unharmed, he had in fact been dead for hours. But the horrors didn't end there. In another bedroom, they found Anthony Bailey, dead from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. He had taken his own life, escaping justice and taking with him the answers to the haunting question of why. By 5:30 a.m., when Sandra's family was informed, they were in disbelief. While they knew Sandra and Anthony's relationship had its ups and downs, there had never been any signs of abuse. Now, they were left grappling with the unimaginable.
It just kept playing over and over in my head, like, would somebody do this?
As detectives delved deeper into the case, they uncovered disturbing details that painted a clearer yet more unsettling picture of what might have led to the tragedy. Sandra's family hadn't noticed any glaring red flags, but that may have been because she chose to keep her...
I thought these was his ankles right here, boy. I was gonna say he's small as shit, boy. But I thought they was his ankles, but
struggles to herself.
I'm telling you.
However, they did recall one troubling incident from March 2018 when Sandra had grown frustrated with Anthony's drinking problem and served him an official eviction notice. Yet he refused to leave. Investigators now believe that Sandra had been unhappy in the relationship for quite some time and was likely trying to end it for good. A post she shared on Facebook just hours before her death seemed to echo those sentiments. You should be with a person you can grow with, not with someone who doesn't have any goals in life. Life is too short to be unhappy every day. Everyone is just not meant to be. Authorities suspect that Anthony lashed out when Sandra finally decided to break free from the relationship. But perhaps the most alarming discovery was the fact that Anthony Bailey should never have had access to a firearm in the first place. As a convicted felon who served a nearly 2-year prison sentence for aggravated assault back in the 90s, federal law prohibited him from possessing any firearms. However, due to gaps in state laws, particularly in Georgia, which lacks a system to confiscate firearms from convicted criminals, the weapons ultimately fell into the wrong hands. The wounded officers, Taylor Webb and Keegan Merritt, were taken to Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. They would physically recover, but the emotional scars from that day would haunt them forever.
This whole thing is quite drastic.
I know they're gonna be haunted forever, but
without a doubt.
Still recovering. My hand is still messed up. You know, I went through a lot of stuff after I was shot.
The loss Sandra's family suffered was immeasurable. Sandra had been eagerly awaiting the birth of her son, Antonio, who was due on April 29th. Tragically, the boy would never get the chance to see the world. Arkevion, a promising football star with dreams of pursuing higher education and an athletic career, had recently toured a college, brimming with hope for the future. Sandra's baby shower was scheduled for Saturday, April 6th, 2019. Instead, on that same day, her family was forced to plan a funeral. A day meant for joy and celebration turned into one of unbearable grief.
She's always just the type of person where she's fun to be around. And I still hear a voice in my head and what has happened to my family. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody.
Before we wrap up this video, we want to extend our deepest condolences to Sandra's family. In the U.S., homicide is the...
Anyways, make sure y'all like, subscribe, and hit that post notification bell so you never gotta wonder when a young man uploads. I ain't gonna lie, that video was crazy, bro. To be honest, it's just like if your girl try to leave you, don't go down that path, man. Don't be a sicko.